It's the first episode of 2023, and so we talk about the winter storm that affected Christmas Eve, and we talk about churches not meeting on Christmas morning. That's what's today on the To Be the Church podcast. Welcome to the To Be the Church podcast, where we explore what it looks like to truly be the church in today's culture. I'm Tyler, this is Andrew, and that is Goatee. And
Ben, hey buddy.
I'm back. I haven't been on the podcast for a while.
Dude, you are back, and in recognition of your being back, I have some stuff for you. Okay, this right here is a card for you on the occasion of your 4th anniversary at Northwest Gospel Church. It is a card and a little gift from your fellow elders.
Happy anniversary!
And yeah, you could read all those great little.
I want to find Tyler's. Did you write in this? Because Tyler's is always funny. He's always like,
okay, this a lot of.
I'm grateful for you and for our friendship. Oh, it's a little wordy for you, Ty.
I know. I had 2 things on like people's anniversary and birthday cards and stuff. I used to write hags, like have a great summer. And then if I didn't do that, I would find Max's and they would say like, whatever from Max. And I would write, and Tyler.
Yeah, it's good. And then, dude, I have a second gift for you, okay?
I hope you're watching on YouTube right now.
So here's the second gift, man. Yeah, unbox that action right here on the podcast.
I've heard from my children that unboxing videos get a lot of views on YouTube.
Oh,
so
nice.
Hopefully we'll be making some waves here.
Okay. For those of you listening audio, there's a big cardboard box, and Ben is opening it. And as he opens it, he finds...
What is this?
Foosball Winner, a game that is meant to be played in a fun way. So, yeah, look in the box. There should be a second one of these in the box, hopefully.
I feel like I saw this.
Tell me there's a second one of those.
No.
There's only one. Okay, this game is incomplete. Because, dude, you put this on here, okay? And it, like, ties into there. And then
you're flinging it?
Yeah, and then you fling it through that thing. And then it's like, the rules are right here and everything. But
thank you.
I need to look and find where the other one of those is. Yeah, so there you go.
I feel like I saw this online or something, like a video. This looks cool. Thank
you.
It
is pretty cool, yeah.
I appreciate that.
What's the game? We played it at a retreat where it's like there's sand on the table and you...
Dude, I don't know, but I love that.
You know
it's like a shuffleboard, but
shuffleboard, that's what it's called,
but it's like a
tabletop version
of
it?
Tabletop version of shuffleboard.
The best, dude.
Some of my family members got like this size of one of those for their... Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
I can just play by myself with one elastic cord.
Exactly, yeah. And then time yourself to see how long it takes to get them all.
No one will beat me because I can't shoot the pucks back.
That was kind of my idea when I took that out and, whatever. But
thank you. 4 years.
4 years, man. So
no one thought it was possible.
3 years longer than I thought you'd last.
3.5.
You and me both.
3.5 for me. I feel like we should be like paying each other money for losing the bet. Yeah, Ben.
It fell in my lap. I literally
just found it. The game is complete.
The game is complete. I thought that was weird.
That was weird.
I actually didn't take that out of the box, so I don't know why that was.
It was right in my lap.
Perfect.
Sweet.
Okay. So, yeah. Where do we go from here, Ben?
Well, go ahead. I was going to say, it's the first episode of 2023 here that we are recording. And Christmas was a little bit different here around NGC.
A lot different, yeah.
So our plan initially was to have here at East Vancouver 2 gatherings on Christmas Eve and then not gather on Christmas morning. And then, Ben, your plan over at Camas was 1 Christmas Eve gathering and not gathering on Christmas morning. And here at East Vancouver, we actually didn't get to meet at all because there was, I don't know, you were the one who actually showed up to the facility. You and Cody were both here, but came and checked out the ice rink that was our parking lot. But
it was insane. It was horrible.
Yeah. So, you drove here, roads were whatever. And tell us about that.
Well, yeah, it was just like, waking up on that day, Christmas Eve. We had snow in the area and we'd had like freezing rain that week, but all week the weather forecast had kind of, I wasn't even like thinking about the weekend because all week the weather forecast had kind of put the tough weather and the freezing stuff like in the middle of the week. But the later you got in the week, they kept kind of moving back the forecast, as it were. And pretty soon it was like, okay, Friday night's going to be the real bad one or whatever. And so waking up Saturday morning, it was raining, and where we were up in Washougal, which is usually colder and more snowy than down here in Vancouver, in East Vancouver. It was super, super icy still, but I was like, okay, it's heating up a little bit. It's raining. But then like midday, I was getting reports from people who were down here near the church, and it was like this specific area around the church parking lot, and then the church facility itself here in East Vancouver, and then kind of just right around this area of 192nd. It was pretty bad. So 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which would have been a couple hours before our first gathering, I came down to like assess it in person, because I figured we'd like maybe, just do one gathering at 6 o'clock rather than the 4 and the 6 or whatever. But I wanted to see it in person, and early afternoon, it was so bad. The amount of ice that was in the parking lot and everything else, that there was just like, there's no way this could be ready for it to be safe to meet in the following hours. So yeah, we had to pull the plug. Super, super depressing.
And what was it like? Because you guys were able to have your Christmas Eve gathering over at Camas Washougal.
Yeah. It wasn't quite as bad. It was definitely slick. Max and I and another guy went out there with shovels and kind of just made some walkways and kind of shoveled where the parking lot lines were, and then salted it. And thankfully CW's parking lot's like slanted, so as it melted, because it actually was getting warmer towards the gathering in the late afternoon, stuff kind of started melting. The problem over at EV, obviously it's flat, so nowhere to go even if you salt it. But we still, our attendance was a lot lower than I expected. We were only doing one. I was like, this is kind of a risk. I thought it was gonna be really packed, only doing one, but it wasn't. But a lot of people I think for most people, they walked out into their driveway that was unplowed, and it was like super slick, and like, I'm not going out in this, even though once you get on your road, if you're in town, it was fine. The roads were fine. It was just parking lots or places with no traffic. So
yeah, one thing that's interesting, and I'm no weatherman, but 192nd is a really weird spot.
Yeah.
And I mean, we drive in from Washougal, all three of us live there, and like you're coming from the east, and it'll be 100% sunny, and then you'll pull up onto the 192nd, kind of like the ridge right there at the exit, and it'll be instantly foggy, or the opposite, like where it'll be super foggy in Washougal and then sunny here. And yeah, when my mom texted me, because she lives right here close to the church facility, and she was like, yeah, like it's not melting at all. And I like looked out my window and I was like, oh, it seems like it's kind of melting here. It's like, oh yeah, there's a big difference here. But we did get some questions, because the plan was to not have our weekend gatherings on Christmas morning, but rather to have them on Christmas Eve. And so specifically, somebody wrote in the podcast and said this: hey, I'm curious why NGC doesn't have church on Christmas. And this question did come in 3 days before Christmas Eve, so we're just handling it later. I'm seeing a lot of negative posts online toward pastors choosing not to have church, to the point of suggesting people find a new church if their doors are closed. I'm also seeing posts that shame Christians if they don't go to church on Christmas. I'm not bothered by the decision. I'm asking out of curiosity, because I know NGC has a reason for everything they do. This is from somebody at CW, because they said, we would never dream of leaving #the goat, #Pastor Ben. Merry Christmas.
Whoa, happy 4-year, dude. The goat.
Man, you're the goat.
Feeling love today.
Greatest of all time, #Pastor Ben.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just talk through. Well, first let's talk through the decision, and then we saw these same posts online about people shaming people for not having, and we even discussed it before Christmas. Yeah. But yeah, tell us why we do what we do.
Yeah, I saw people shaming those who were shaming other people and calling them legalistic, and it was just Christian Twitter at its finest,
The shaming of the shaming is a particularly fun way to get virtue.
I like to shame the shaming of the shamed.
Yeah. Totally.
There's often not a third party shamer. It's most often in those situations, it's like the person that just tries to be funny. Like they're just like, yeah, forget everything. Yeah.
So when I first was kind of made aware, and this was obviously months and months ago, that Christmas Day was going to fall on a Sunday, my first inclination was, we meet on Sundays. It's the Lord's Day. It's just what we do. So of course we're going to meet. But that was just kind of my off the cuff kind of thought. As I thought about it more and talked to others like Andrew and other pastors who had experienced this decision in the past, because this is the first time it's fallen on Sunday with me as a lead pastor, there's a lot of factors to think through. Not just what attendance would be like if you had on Sunday, but thinking through volunteers and ministries you'd have to run and different things. And so, I don't know, the conclusion I came to was we're not canceling church on Christmas. That wasn't the thought. It was, for that weekend, we're gathering on Saturday. And we're still going to be doing all the same things. The word's going to be preached. We're going to sing. We're going to be in fellowship together. We're just doing it on Saturday instead of Sunday. And the reality is, if I thought that a lot of people wouldn't be able to come on Saturday and could only come on Sunday, if I really had that data and information, we probably would have met on Sunday. But I knew for the most part, if not everyone at CW could come on Saturday. And obviously the weather threw a wrench in things. But we're not told in the New Testament anywhere that we are commanded to gather on Sunday. The early church started to gather on Sunday because of the resurrection, and they began to call it the Lord's Day. But obviously before that, in Judaism, the Sabbath was from Friday night to Saturday night. They would worship on that Saturday. I do think it's important that we continue the tradition of meeting on the Lord's Day and celebrate the resurrection every Sunday. But it's not a command in the New Testament that we must meet. Really, the only thing we have in the New Testament is, I think Paul mentions that when you gather, and he's talking about giving, and then John in Revelation says that he was in the Spirit on the Lord's Day. And so we have those. We know that they did it, and the apostles started that tradition. But it's nowhere commanded that we have to meet on Sunday. So I didn't feel like it was that we were disobeying Scripture or anything like that. And we were still going to get together and gather as the ecclesia, as the church that weekend to celebrate Christmas. So
I saw one guy online say in the scriptures that the first day of the week started at sunset. Like
I think Josh Butler.
Yeah. And I was and he's like, so that kind of wrecks this whole debate,
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, that's kind of hilarious because it's true. But this was the third time that it's fallen on Christmas has fallen on a weekend since I've been the lead pastor here, and we've done it different ways every time. So like even as I read the question, why I'm curious why NGC doesn't have church on Christmas. The question askers meaning like when Christmas is on a Sunday, of course.
Yeah. Well, and they send it 4 days before Christmas.
Sure.
So like, why don't you have it on Christmas? Yeah.
And so I think that like my first thought when I look at this question is like, well, there's not like a NGC doesn't have church on. That's not like a policy. There's not a. In my years here, we've done it different ways. There's been years where we've met where it's been on a weekend where we've done gatherings on both Saturday and Sunday of the weekend. There will be times in the future when that happens as well, probably. And then there have been times like this year where we're going to just do it on a Saturday. And there were multiple gatherings that we were going to have on that Saturday. It made it a moot point here at East Vancouver because of that weather situation that was bad. But yeah, I was definitely I don't know. I saw all the stuff on Twitter going around and the shaming and then the shaming of the shaming and all the stuff. And I think like the people who were doing the most shaming on it were chalking it up to like just the next data point in the compromise of the American church, like just these churches that are doctrine light, that are, they don't preach the scriptures and they don't have, biblical structures and they don't even meet on Sunday, and like just the next sort of.
There was a ton of straw man kind of. Yeah.
The next sort of data point on like, see how, and so then it became like this moniker of orthodoxy for the kind of this virtuous orthodox, like we are the Orthodox one because we go on Sunday, every Sunday, even on Christmas. We don't care about materialism, And so I don't know. I saw one guy that's got a pretty decent sized following on Twitter as a pastor of a local church. And he had tweeted like, I would leave my local church over something to the effect of I would leave my local church over the decision not to meet on a Sunday. Like for sure, like I would leave it. And so like, I looked at that and thought, that's a great take, dude. Like he's got like 30,000 followers. I'm like, awesome. Like I'd be so glad to be pastoring in the same town as this guy, like not actually glad. I just think that's such to say that as a pastor, I think is like, dude, why, it's definitely going to rile up your followers. It's definitely going to create the us versus them reality. And there's actually that specific dude, his doctrinal statement propositionally is probably not that different from NGC's, in the sense of like, we're probably not super in the same tribe as him, but he's generally in the same tribe as us mostly. And I just remember seeing it and going, one of my first thoughts is like, if you're going to leave your church over that, you should leave because you're already gone. Like if there's going to be a schedule situation and moving the gatherings up on a weekend by 12 hours, and you're going to leave over that, and your church is still meeting that week, and yada, yada, and your church chose to do that weekend, your elders in unity made that decision, whatever, and you're going to leave over that, you're already gone. You're not united with that church. You already have a foot out the door. So you should probably pray about leaving anyway,
There were a lot of assumptions of why a church would not meet on that Sunday.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, I think churches had different reasons. It wasn't so that we could just make our weekend more convenient or anything like that. I mean, there's a lot of factors to consider. Because I saw a prominent guy tweet something to the effect of, so, you throw a fuss when you can't meet because of COVID, but then because of Santa Claus, you're canceling church. And it's like, none of the brothers I know who didn't meet on Sunday, like, it wasn't because of Santa Claus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That wasn't like the reason that we wanted to not go to church, so we could engage in all of the, secular versions of celebrating this holiday. And so, to the churches that did meet on Sunday, and I have a lot of good friends who pastor churches that did, like, I think that's great. And I'm glad they were united with their leadership team and made that decision. I don't have anything against, like I said, we've had years where we've done that. And in the future, 6 years from now or so, the way I'm feeling right now, I'm like, dude, I totally want to do Christmas Eve and Christmas in the future in case there's like a major weather event again or something, just because it's like to be able to, and I think too, size dynamics with NGC, like I definitely, but I think it's like there are these matters of conscience, and there are these ways that we operate within a local church and everything else. And there's this whole other world online that, and I mean, COVID, we saw this in spades, where it was like every decision being made, for certain people, there was like one way to do it, and they had to make sure that everybody knew this is the way to do it, and all these other things. If you don't, then you're in that camp, or you're in that camp, and you're compromising, or you're whatever, and I just think it's like things are a little bit more complicated than that, a little bit more nuanced than that. And even saying that word nuance, that one of the tactics within this whole, these type of debates on Twitter is like, oh, you're saying nuance to refer to the fact that you don't have sound doctrine. And it's just, multiple things are true here. Are there churches that have really crummy ecclesiology or no ecclesiological framework? Yes. Are there doctrinal compromises massively within the American church? Yes, on many fronts. Are there churches that have sold out and aren't preaching the word anymore? Yes, right? Are there churches that have sold out on sexual ethics? Yes. Are there churches that, all those things are true. But I think to paint with such a broad brush to go like, and so I'm going to use this specific instance, whether it's something during COVID or something for Christmas or something, I'm going to use this thing about some scheduling thing or something else to put all people who do this into the camp of the baddies. I just think it's such linear thinking and small-mindedness and divisive. And I mean, dude, these dudes that have these big followings on Twitter, I mean, oh man, so there's a lot of irresponsibility out there with that. And I think it's and at the end of the day, I will, as each one of these will, be accountable for those kinds of things before the Lord, because it's like, you're not many of us should presume to be teachers and because we'll be judged more strictly. And so I think about that, and that's not me shaming. So I'm not telling anybody's names here or anything like that. I'm just saying like, dude, not helpful,
Yeah. I think a lot of this, is kind of like dressed up as I love the church more than you do. We have a very high view of what the church is at NGC. But it's, and I felt this in myself in my late 20s, early 30s, where I was almost out to prove that I was more serious about stuff than other people were. And when I read the tweet from the guy you're talking about, it was like, that's all he's doing right now, is trying to prove that he is more serious about his love for the church than somebody else is. Or if I'm being real cynical, it's the mega church in his town canceled Christmas morning, and he's like, I can get some more followers at my church now.
Yep.
But yeah, I saw Romans 14 brought up in this debate as well. The whole part about, one views one day is more holy than another. Let each be convinced in his own mind.
Yeah.
Like pretty much the definition of a matter of conscience there. And obviously it wasn't saying because of Christmas morning. No, it was,
Sure.
obviously about eating and stuff like that. But,
Yep.
but yeah, I don't know.
But the spirit of it, right,
Yeah.
Tyler? There's like and we're studying right now at NGC at East Vancouver with our staff, like these ideas of, I have it written down here, the truncated description of it. We're listening to this podcast series right now, gospel doctrine and gospel culture. These things, like gospel doctrine creates gospel culture. So this marrying, which I think the book of Titus is all about, of propositional truth as well as like relational and harmonious loving one another, the truth of God in both proposition, the doctrine, as well as the doctrine lived out in the lives of God's people. So these things go together, right? And I think this is one of those deals that when Paul's writing Romans 14, Romans 15, other places, there are those type of issues. It's been going on for thousands of years. There are those type of issues within the community of God that because of immaturity, because of sin, whatever else, we don't claim, the three of us, at all to be completely no, the way we did it is the way everybody should do it. Like, we're not saying that at all. In fact, and I'm not myself either going the way I did it is the way I'm going to do it every time, or that's the only way it should be done. I don't know. Maybe years from now I'll be way more dogmatic about that. I don't know, but I
hope not. I think that's the right posture. I mean, I could have made the wrong decision for CW. I don't think I did, and I was trying to honor the Lord and care for our people well. But yeah, I think having a humble approach is the best.
All right. Well, that did our first episode of the new year. We'd love to hear from you. Preferably not about Christmas now that it's over, but about anything else. We'd love to field your questions. And so you can do those. You can send those to podcast@tobeTheChurch.com. You can also send them in on social media @tobeTheChurch. And I think we're going to play some foosball. So we will see you later.